we didn't give her a fair shot. All right, let's call this meeting to order at 12:04 or so here. Our objective here today is to get some market analysis information from Tracy Yost, and I will turn it over to you to take off with information. What have you found?
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Dose. I appreciate that. The market analysis did not come back favorable. I guess if we just cut right to the chase on that. That's something that we kind of discussed at the last meeting on what would the Shoshone County look like on their own insurance plan, so to speak, right? If we were a standalone group outside of the GEM plan pool, what potentially impact would the renewal look like based on claims activity, large claimants, things like that. Okay, and we just kind of assumed that it would probably be in the double digits, somewhere around 20% based on our claims activity. So in our market analysis, we went out to a number of carriers, and I have an illustration for you folks as well on that. So it's a pretty simple breakdown.
Do you have a spare one?
I absolutely do.
We could pass one back there to the public.
You bet. You bet.
Thank you.
Okay, so as I shared with you in an email a few weeks back, the major carriers that are in our marketplace are all the ones that we requested a proposal from. All right. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at our current plan up on top, highlighted in blue, the GEM plan administered by Blue Cross of Idaho, and then down the list, United Healthcare, Blue Cross of Idaho Direct outside the GEM plan, Regions Blue Shield of Idaho, Aetna Healthcare, Cigna Health Plans, and Pacific Source Health Plans. So those are all the major carriers that are providing insurance plans in our marketplace up here. Okay, so if allow me to explain real quick on the Blue Cross of Idaho Direct, Regions, Aetna, Cigna, and Pacific Source. So if the insurance company, when they get the provided information, the renewal estimate, what the renewal is going to look like, last 2 years claims activity, last 2 years renewals, they base, their underwriters will look at what their baseline rate is. Okay. And if the baseline rate is not even close to where they think they can be competitively, they're going to decline to quote the group. So that's basically what we've seen. I didn't bring all the email correspondence from the various carriers, but I'm more than happy to provide the commissioners that for verification. But most all the other companies did decline to quote. United Healthcare did provide a quote, but as you can see, it's substantially higher than what we're paying with matching benefits on the insurance plan. So at the end of the day, it was a good move to make that move over to the GEM plan a couple of years ago. I think that's afforded the county some protection in that pool. Albeit 9.5% is rough to budget for everyone, but as we talked about in the last meeting, that is the general trend that we're seeing. I believe the state of Idaho just came out with their renewal for their state plan, and that was just slightly north of 9% as well. Within Idaho, under the Idaho School District Benefit Trust, which the majority of the school districts participate in, well, similar to the GEM plan in its self-funded plan design, that pool sustained just shy of a 7% increase. It was 9 something last year. So I think it's reasonable to say that based on our market analysis, the 9.5% is the best we're going to be able to do this year, barring any major tweaks to your plan design. I mean, we could tweak the deductible, office copay, modify the prescription drug benefit, things of that nature to move that price point a little bit overall. But it's been my experience that if you if you wanted to make a fairly significant move from your price point, you would definitely have to modify your plan considerably, moving to a higher deductible plan. Let's call it $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to see any significant percentage difference in your plans. If you jumped up, say, from a $750 deductible that we're on now to $1,000, you'd probably see minimal cost differential, 0.5%, somewhere in that neighborhood. So the question begs is, as all companies struggle with today in their employee recruitment and retention, is how much do we want to modify those benefits and how they may affect our current employee base? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Everyone? You bet.
Help me understand, the deductible 750, I get the OOPM is what?
The out-of-pocket maximum?
Okay,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nope, no, you're fine. I just,
Yeah.
so out-of-pocket maximum is 2250 or 4,000 for a couple, is that?
Yeah, and that does include that $750 deductible is an accumulator to that out-of-pocket maximum. And I can provide you with a more defined benefit summary on the current plan, and we can review that. And that is certainly what we have planned for the open enrollment meeting August 23rd in conjunction with the wellness fair. So definitely take a deep dive and review the benefits for the employees. And historically, we've done that on an annual basis, but you know, COVID threw everything sideways on that.
Yeah, it's just hard to figure out what to do with 9.5% increase.
Yeah.
But if we wanted to cut that 9.5%, what would be the logical, just asking, just for instance, what would be the logical things we'd have to do? Raise the deductible?
Yeah, probably modify your prescription drug plan. Look at upping your office co-pay visits. Perhaps increasing your annual out-of-pocket maximum. So,
What's our current prescription?
I'd have to take a look at that. I don't know if I have that. It's relatively rich though. And we're going to talk about the prescription drug spend just a little bit here in a moment, but off the top of my head, I'm sorry, I don't know what that is.
Okay.
But I know historically, you know, the health insurance plan hasn't been changed in a few years, and that has been partly due because prior to COVID, the renewals were very palatable. I mean, 1%, 2% in that neighborhood. So it's been a pretty good run for quite a while. But I think it defaulted as well, not wanting to disrupt the benefit plan for the employees largely. And that holds true with a number of employer groups, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what you look at. And, you know, I would be more than happy to look at a couple of different plan designs and see what the financial impact would have on the overall plan cost for you.
Well, that would be I think we at least should be doing the due diligence of looking at what the other options would cost. What are you other commissioners
Yeah.
feeling?
I'd like to look at all options.
I think we should look at all options as well.
And do you, what are your thoughts on the higher deductible plans? Is there perhaps a threshold? They say, hey, we don't want to go any higher than, you know, $2,000-3,000 deductible. Or
Well, we have basically the Viva provides $1,000. So, I mean, $1,000 deductible would be, you know, would look, you know, you could compare that to, I think we could start with that, look at it anyway. We don't have to make any decisions.
right,
That wouldn't give a real significant difference in the,
No,
it's going to be minimal for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
seeing 2,000 would be really, you know, that'd be drastic. $2,000 deductible.
With regards to impact to the
Yeah,
employees,
the
yes,
employees,
yeah. But I'm more than happy to do that. We'll take a look just to see
Okay.
what those numbers look like.
Yeah.
You bet. I'll look at,
I'll tell you what, maybe another way of looking at it is what would we have to do on the front end to get that back end to look more like a 3 or 4% increase instead of a 9.5% increase, you know?
I apologize. Help me understand that question
So-
just a little bit
So
better.
rather than me trying to tell you, well, let's do the deductible at this and the prescription at that, maybe if you could go back and look at it and go, well, they're not liking the 9.5% increase. Maybe you could work a couple of proposals that cut that 9.5% increase in half cost wise and say, well, Dave, if you really want to get that 9.5 down to a 4% this year,
Sure,
here's about the best you could do for
Okay.
insurance.
you got it. Yeah.
Yeah,
That would
I
be,
think that would be great.
I don't know what we want to do with this. I hate to mess with people's insurance. But I also hate to figure out where we're gonna come up with 10% more in taxes. So,
Yeah. One other idea that we might want to consider is, well, so then we're going to begin to talk about the contribution on how the insurance is paid for. But a common practice for a lot of employer groups is to put in two healthcare plans, right? So we would pay, 100% of the $750 deductible plan. We're gonna raise the deductible to $2,000. The county would pay 100% for that $2,000 deductible plan. But if you want to keep your $750 deductible plan, you would have to pay that cost differential between the $750 and $2,000.
Okay.
That's a very
That's
common.
another-
Yeah, that's a very
Yeah.
common practice with employer groups.
So they would pay the difference in between.
Yeah,
well, I think we need to explore it.
okay.
I'm sorry to keep coming back to you with
No,
more work,
No,
but
that's,
I just I'm having a hard time figuring out how we're gonna cover if we don't do something, so. So I guess maybe we should explore the idea of two different insurance plans.
Deductible plans.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, because what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to work within the GEM plan. I don't think we're gonna have opportunity with anybody else even considering, a different plan design based on that base rate that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah,
So working within the GEM plan, we'll look at a dual choice and see what that kind of looks like.
appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, just a little disappointing in that, in complete transparency, I didn't expect Blue Cross of Idaho to come back with any kind of an offering. I think that would be a sort of a conflict of interest because they are administering the plan under the GEM plan, and that's typically how that stuff kind of works, right? So Regents, I was a little bit surprised at. I thought that they would probably come back. I mean, I had a personal conversation with the representative that deals in the North Idaho market, and it's basically it boils down to the claims activity, the renewals, and they just cannot touch the rates within the GEM plan is what it boils down to. So
And we did have some high claims activities earlier on.
Yeah.
I saw that, so,
We've had
yeah.
to
yeah.
make sure.
And that might be a good segue into the, I think I'm clear on what our next step is on the medical plan. So we'll look at a dual choice, a higher deductible plan, maybe some modifications within the plan itself to see what that looks like. So I'll get to work on that right away. That shouldn't take too long to get put together. So if I may, I'm going to segue into the prescription drug plans a little bit. So I wanted to do some research just to kind of see what that looked like, the prescription drug utilization, because that might give you guys a little more insight into why we're looking at the cost point that we are within the plan. Okay, so all personal information is redacted from these forms, so you got to be a little sensitive to that. But so
this is a list of the top 16 most utilized drugs within the county population. Okay, as you can see, the top 5 drugs alone, and with the sum paid column, that illustrates what the plan is paying for. Okay, that's the plan cost, so that's what the insurance is covered. So to date, we're at 274,000 and some change on just the top 5 only. Okay, the 126, 254, that's how much difference there is between the total cost spend for the remaining prescription drugs and the top 5. So I believe that I mentioned that in some of our earlier meetings that it, as a general rule of thumb, with any employer population base, it's a small percentage of the population that drives the majority cost of the claims. And that certainly holds true here. It's not uncommon at all. But I wanted to give you an idea on not just the claims, but the prescription drug costs are very expensive. And if you look at projections into 2023 and into 2024, those costs are going to continue to go up.
Now, I thought you had redacted all the personal information on this, and yet you have my name appearing on here multiple times.
Oh.
1 milligram
Oh,
dose, 2 milligram
I didn't even-
dose.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even catch that. Oh, my goodness.
Are these brand names or are they,
Yeah, some of them are specialty drugs. Most of them are brand name, and there's some generic in there.
okay, then there's no, we try to use generic or do they?
Absolutely. So I'm going to take my jacket off here. So I want to talk specifically about the high claim or the high dollar prescription drug benefit. So I defined a little bit, and I've been going back and forth on whether or not I want to talk about specifically what the drug addresses. And I think I'll refrain from that, but we do have an ongoing multiple sclerosis and a high claim rheumatoid arthritis prescription drug use in there. So when those high claims like that occur, it triggers a case management scenario within Blue Cross of Idaho, so that they'll reach out to the member and the provider that member's seeing to make sure that that individual is managing their health in the most optimum way, making sure that we're utilizing the most cost-effective prescription drug and et cetera, et cetera. So there are certain things that are triggered internally that help case management of those high prescription drug costs. But to answer your question directly on generic, yeah, the 90% of the time, the provider should be subscribing the generic equivalent to the drug, right? If it is available, because as we know, it has the exact FDA ingredients, right? So there's no differences there. Some things that come into play is that through the course of that care, if you're seeing your personal healthcare provider on a regular basis and they know you and they may have been trying different drugs and how they interact with each other, that comes into play as well, right? So maybe this particular drug didn't work in conjunction with this drug, so we have to tweak this. So there's a lot of moving parts on that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But generally speaking, they should be promoting the generic drug costs. And that, I think if we were to look at a report, I would suggest that that would show that in some sort of report that the generic utilization is on the higher end of the scale.
Okay.
Okay. Great question though. And that's some of the things that we look at. As a matter of fact, I just actually had a conversation with the GEM plan, is where I got this information from. And just questioning their internal, do you guys, let me back up a step. So that is the responsibility of the GEM plan to look at the pool as a whole and how holistically it is working,
right? And part of that is a prescription drug, is that they make sure that the generic utilization should be on the 90 percentile bracket of all plans, because that's where our biggest cost savings is to go to generic.
Okay.
You know, unfortunately though, and I don't know if I have to define this too much for you guys, but in our provider community, we have pharmaceutical representation, right?
Mhm.
That come in and they promote their particular prescription drug. And is there financial incentive there? I'll leave that to somebody else to reason
Yep.
on, but is that a safe way to say that? So yeah, so that's just an example of how much of the prescription drug cost is driving our overall cost of our healthcare plan. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Commissioner Dose, I apologize for identifying you under that
Yeah,
psychiatric drug that.
I didn't know what the med was, but I want some now, so.
Oh, man, I didn't even,
Yeah, that's embarrassing. Even got my dosage down there. Yeah.
that's too funny. So, yeah, so that just gives us an understanding of some of the cost drivers in our plan. So that explains a lot of the reason why we're getting declined to quote from the other carriers as well.
Okay.
So I hope that makes sense to everybody. Yes, it
Mhm.
does. Okay. Last but not least, we do have an updated claims experience report. So as I shared with you folks, they generally come out the 15th of the month. So we were able to capture April just the other day. So
So we're down again.
yeah,
Good.
Hmm.
yeah. And on the reverse page are some of the larger claims to give you an idea on what the cost is on those. And then that bottom grid is basically just a snapshot of the prescription drug spend that I just shared with you.
Okay.
And so. Yeah, generally speaking, the market in and of itself all over the place has been pretty volatile post-COVID. That's had an effect on, on everything as we've talked about before. So. Let's see, what else? Okay, so I'm working with Delta Dental a little bit, Dave. I saw that you were received some communication on Delta Dental. They're not adjusting their admin fee. Have you seen that? You have not seen that?
Mm-mm.
Oh, I see. Okay. So I'm taking a closer look at that. We're not going to talk about that too in depth at this meeting, but they're going to maintain their admin fee at 12%. That's what it has been for the last couple of years. So they're not adjusting that. One thing I want to look at is what we call a disruption report. Under most contracts, specifically Delta Dental, they have a PPO contract, which is the fee for service is less from the provider than what you would consider like a premier contract or something like that. So I'm looking at it. It looks like most of the Shellstrom County employees are accessing some form of a PPO dentist provider. And where that comes into play is the claim amount that Shellstrom County is self-funding. That claim amount will come down a little bit underneath the PPO contract. Okay, so I'm going to peel that back a little bit to see if that's financially advantageous to the county to perhaps move over to a fully PPO contract versus a premier contract that we've been on. It's been a very rich benefit plan design for the employees, and again, it's been hesitant to move away from that particular plan, and partly due because the way the plan is designed is if it starts out from I'm going from memory here a little bit, but it starts out at $750 annual maximum, and that maxes out at $1,000 annual max. But I get a 10% increase on my annual max coverage from that 750 to 1,000. I get a 10% increase annually if I go in for my cleanings. So it's incentivizing everybody to go in and take care of their dental care, right? So that's been a little bit of an issue, is in the folks that have been diligent in going and getting their cleanings annually and have brought themselves to that 1,000 annual maximum out of pocket. If we move away from that, then that kind of, like, well, what did I was doing my job on that, and how come I'm being penalized on that? It could be conceived that way. So, but anyway, I'm going to circle back around with you guys, and probably next week sometime or the week after that, and have more defined information on the renewal. And I'll find out why you didn't receive that, because I was copied on an email that had you on it. So
It was from who?
Delta Dental of Idaho.
I haven't seen anything.
Okay. So at the end of the day, the good news is that they're not adjusting their admin rate. So that's always positive. No cost increase there. So, but still, I want to peel that back a little bit more. It's actually, to be honest with you, it's been a couple years since we've taken a hard look at that. Because it's just kind of one of those things where it just kind of rolls along and not much attention to it. So I'm taking a look at that, and we'll circle back around with you on that. So let's jump down to upcoming meetings. So I was visiting with Tammy Shield before our meeting here today, and it sounds like we're locked in pretty good for August 23rd for the wellness fair in conjunction with Social Medical Center. So we have been coordinating out of our office as well with Tammy and what was the gal's name at Social? Mary? Okay. But anyway, so that's all coming together. And we thought we'd kill a couple of birds with one stone in that. So we're going to hold the open enrollment meeting to discuss any plan design changes or anything therein with regards to the benefit package. On that day, that will also open up a week-long open enrollment period for the employees to log into the benefits enrollment portal, make any elections or changes that they wish to make under that. And that enrollment portal will also encompass a number of compliance documents that the county is required by law to provide to the employees. And that's a great way to house those and track those as well in there. So the employees would be required to sign off on those, whether they read them or not. They'll have to sign off on them. Okay. Nobody reads them anyway, from what I understand. So everything's on track there. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, guys.
Okay, appreciate it.
I appreciate
Clear?
the extra
Yeah,
research.
sure.
Okay.
Appreciate your extra efforts on our behalf to try to find some ways to save some money.
Yeah.
And I know it's causing you extra work, so I appreciate it.
No, I don't mind the extra work at all. One other thing that, real quick, if I can, I know we're running well into the lunch hour, but so I had some dialogue with Gallagher Benefits. Those are the folks that are managing your Viva plan. And I know historically when we have done these benefit fairs, they have not showed up for those. So don't ask me why, but I felt compelled to reach out to those guys and say, hey, we're putting together a benefit fair again this year. Do you guys want to participate in that? And they're like, yeah, we do. So with your permission, I think it's a good idea to bring these guys in and talk a little bit about the Viva plan and how I think everybody that's been at the county for a while has a good understanding of that and how to manage that and how it works, et cetera, but it never hurts to have a refresher on that, right?
Right.
Especially if we're a younger employee with Shoshone County and get the idea of the investing that money, because at a certain threshold under that Viva HRA, you can pull some of that money out, right, and throw it into mutual funds, and and begin to invest it a little bit so that it grows over time for your retirement nest egg, if you will. So I think it's a good idea to bring those guys in and talk to that a little bit. Is that news to you?
Yeah,
that news to you guys?
yeah,
Is it? Okay,
yeah,
yeah,
sure is.
yeah, because that's, I don't manage that part of it.
Okay.
But I just feel in a sense that it's my responsibility that since we're going down this road with the
Yeah.
benefit, and in the past, like I had mentioned, we had invited those guys a couple of times and they, for whatever reason, didn't make it, but I think it's a good idea to review that a little bit.
Okay.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
All right, appreciate it.
Other questions from the board?
No?
More nasty work assignments we could hand him, anything. No, I appreciate and I look forward to seeing what you can figure out as far as a two-plan, what
Okay.
that might look like. Just so we have something to compare to and
you bet. Okay, so just a little food for thought for you guys, if I may, is just maybe consider, what does that look like from a county standpoint? If we put in that plan, because you're talking about modifying your contribution model at that point, right? How you pay for the insurance. So just maybe not to use the school analogy, but maybe a little homework assignment just to kind of consider that as we roll forward to looking at those plans and how the county might deal with that, the financing of that.
Yep.
Okay, makes sense?
Yep.
Okay, that's it
All
for
right.
me.
Thanks, Tracy.
Enough information?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
this meeting is adjourned.